Great, thank you. Good evening. We'll call the Hawarden, Iowa City Council to order on Wednesday, March the 10th, 2029 at 5:41 p.m. I'm late, for my apologies for that. All council other than Travis are here, and Mr. Pickner, our city attorney, is not here also. So we will start with standard agenda items number 1A, the approval of the February 24th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes.
So moved.
There's been a motion by Rob. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jen. Further questions or clarifications? All in favor of the motion for approval of February 24th City Council meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes 4-0. Thank you. Next, we have claims for payment for today. We'll start to my left with Rob for questions.
No questions.
Okay, Jen, any questions?
Questions?
John?
None, thanks.
Tim?
None, so moved.
There's been a motion by Tim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by John. This motion is to approve the claims for payment for March the 10th. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That again passes 4-0. Open business from the community. We've got to have community here. Okay, we'll move on. Have no mayor's report tonight, so we'll move on to staff reports. Mike, you're right there. We'll start with yours, please.
Well, I've got a few things tonight. Our city crews are working on removing the dishwasher in the community center, getting the site prepared. We got our new dishwasher coming hopefully next week. We obtained that with a grant received from the Hawarden Community Foundation. The current dishwasher we had in there is out of the old Sioux Empire College kitchen, so it was used when we got it. In having it come down and repaired, they said it's just not working properly. It's not sanitizing or anything. So thanks to the Hawarden Community Foundation for funding a new one. Working with the hospital and then their attorneys from Davis Brown, our attorney Jim Pickner, and Dorsey and Whitney on the wording of the loss sharing agreement. Hopefully at the next council meeting we'll have something in front of you that solidifies that agreement. Lifeguards and summer rec staff have been hired, and they're anxiously awaiting for school to get out so they can get into the swing of things for the summer. David Blankenship will be back for the swimming pool manager, and Jesse Strong will be back for the summer rec program. We closed out the construction loan on the wastewater treatment plant improvements and converted it to a regular loan. The total project cost came in at $3.522 million. It was $286,550 below the projected cost of $3.8 million. Annual interest rate on that is 0.91%. Just a reminder to residents, utility bills will be mailed out Friday. If you need assistance with paying the gas increase, please call the city office and they'll work with you and make arrangements. And then a question for council, your thoughts on going back to normal seating at council meetings? You want to just continue as we are, or do you want to go back to normal? I just need to know your comfort level, so.
I'm fine with normal.
I'm getting my next shot, so
Okay.
I'm ready.
So you'll be ready?
I'm safe. I don't know about you guys, but
Well, we'll just set it up normal and go back to normal, get rid of that table, and that way people at that table can have microphones. If you're sitting there, you can't hear anything they're saying on TV. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. It's good interest rate, and that was a good project to be under the estimate.
Yep.
By quite a bit. So it's a good savings, a good project completed. Travis, we can't hear you at the table, so move you up, please.
We just renewed our supply agreement with Muller Pallets. It's for 5 years, and it gives them the right to come and grind our tree pile and then take the wood chippings for disposal. It's a free service to the city. It's beneficial for both parties, so we're happy to get that agreement continued. The other thing is a reminder to mark your calendars for citywide cleanup. It will be May 14th, 15th, and 16th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The only change is we're going with the new electronic recycler for our TVs and computer monitors. It's Scene Incorporated out of Sioux Falls. Prices should be relatively the same, but there'll be a guide that comes out closer to the time.
Thank you. I appreciate the letter that you put together in regards to the gas prices and so forth. I appreciated the wording and how it got disseminated. Also appreciate that it was in English and Spanish on the backside. I think that's very important for our community.
Right, we wanted to hit as many residents as we could, whether they choose to read it or not.
Right.
Mailed out to
It's
everyone.
their opportunity. And my understanding, too, thanks to the front staff members that fielded a number of phone calls, that sometimes in those instances, those are difficult times. So I appreciate our city working with our customers in that regard. Jacob?
Just got the budget form complete. We're ready for next council meeting. We'll get that going and be ready for next fiscal year.
Seem to fly by, don't they? Larry, please.
Just an update on a few things. We are continuing our work on the Big Sioux embroidery move project, People's Bank project, and a Half at Home project. We are also been working on a couple service businesses here that are looking in the downtown area, also retail business. We also have an existing service business that we're working on some business retention and some business expansion projects on. We've got 3 people looking at the revolving loan fund. If you remember, we were able to receive this funding back from the Chamber House project, so that put $135,000 back in. We had about $40,000 in there already, so we have about $175,000 that we're looking at getting back out, and we do have a good number of clients that are looking at it. We hosted a prospect to the city's industrial park and the Timber Roots building north of town in the past couple of weeks. That went well, and there's discussion going on with what the future plans are. And we also did a prospect webinar via CBN. That's our regional group that we belong to, and then that group actually ties in the community venture network that does the hosting of individuals looking to expand their businesses outside of their existing areas. Also attended a number of PPP, Payroll Protection Program, SBA webinars. Our banks around here are well versed and very much ahead of the curve, talking to businesses, stuff like that. So we've had to do very little on this particular side of things this time. And that would be it.
Thanks. I had an opportunity to be at the Habitat for Humanity meeting. Kurt Frangi said that was the best attended meeting that they've had in quite a while. So I was really thankful for that great information. And as the public knows, that application process, I think, is open till
March
month.
31st.
Okay. So.
And I did talk to Kurt also, and yeah, he was very happy with a number of people he thought would apply. And then one other thing I was remiss on saying is going back to our community magazine, all the ads actually sold out, and there was actually, I believe, now a waiting line on that. So I want to give a shout out to Bob and who's doing that entire magazine for us. Hopefully that will be coming up in April to people's doorstep. It will be mailed to their houses, plus we will get it out to the businesses who participated, and City Hall. Here will also have copies of it. And we'll go in our packets as we mail it out to prospects and also new residents looking to come to town. So, but I'll update you guys more as we get closer to that time of getting the news.
Great. I look forward to that.
I'm sorry.
You said you shout out to Bob, but
Oh, Bob Fitch?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. A lot of people wouldn't know that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Corey, you've stepped up already.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Snuck up here a little bit. We got a taste of spring this week, and I think we've had a lot of dog calls already, so I'd like to have everybody that's listening make sure that we lock up our dogs and know where they are at all times. Had some unfortunate things happen with a couple of them, but nothing out of the norm. I know Johnny's already started making a list of nuisance abatement stuff already, so it seems like once the snow stops, we just transition right into that. So As far as the parking in the front yards and stuff like that, we're gonna start enforcing that once we know the snow's done. Obviously, we might get a shocker this weekend, but we'll be going 100% into that. I'm trying to work out an issue with parking uptown. We've had a couple businesses that have residents that actually live in rental units above the establishments. And then we have businesses that are right next door that when they park there overnight, the street doesn't get cleaned, or if the street sweeper's out that day, they don't, go down that street and clean that up. The code's written that there's no parking on Central between 7th and 10th, between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. at any time. And talking to Mike and everybody else, it was because every morning the street sweeper would go up and down Central and clean it up and whatnot. Obviously, that creates a little bit of a problem if you're living in one of those units. So we just sent out letters to them all, just advising them what the law is and asking them to try to think about it if it's going to snow, or if, the streets are getting dirty, or try not to just leave it in one spot all the time and move it around and think of the other businesses. And we had some people that were not happy with it as far as, trying to make their tenants move and stuff like that. But we wanted to get the information out to the people who live there, the people who own the buildings, and also to the other businesses next to them that, try to make it all work together. So don't be surprised if maybe one person might call you and say something about it, but just want to give you a heads up that, we're letting them know that it is a law, and we don't want to enforce it, but we may have to if it becomes bad. That's it.
It makes sense to alternate one side to the other, just to let them park on the street, and then,
We could. We really aren't sweeping anymore from 3 to 6 a.m. Time does Chad come on?
7.
About 7. So, another option is to rescind that ordinance of 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. But still enforce the snow removal, because that becomes a problem too, where people will park there overnight and then not move them the next morning when we try to clean it. So that may be a good alternative to where they can park there, but they still have to abide by the snow removal ordinance.
And there's plenty of people too that are talking about, like with the other bar being there, well, now people are gonna drive home, instead of leaving their vehicle there. Well, most people have known about the ordinance from what I've gathered talking to people, and they're just like, I'd rather pay a $20 parking ticket than to get an OWI, which is obviously the better of the two choices. So, that wasn't a huge deal, so we had to explain that a couple times to different people. But even Central Cafe is open at 5 in the morning, and, everybody's sitting on the round table there that early, and, technically they'd be in violation, but we don't want to do anything to their, patrons either. So, it's kind of a goofy deal, but I just don't, either way, you're not going to make anybody happy. But all it takes is one person to know that law is there, and then want to know why it's not being enforced. And they have to walk through slush or something that's not. So, it's my life.
So it did have a purpose back in the day when we always had the street sweeper come out at 3 in the morning and do Main Street before anybody parked, but I'm not sure it's got as much of a purpose anymore unless it's snow removal.
Where do they go during the snow?
Usually, they'll go to a parking lot, they'll go behind the buildings. Generally, they seem to have somewhere to go.
Any of the off street, and usually the nice thing about it is Central's one of the first things that get hit,
Right.
with the street sweeper and the snow removal. So, obviously we want to open that up so merchants or people can go to the stores and, utilize everything we offer. But, it's just temporary for some people who don't like it. I would be in favor of getting rid of it with Mike. I don't think I think it's old. It doesn't, it's not going to work. And there's not enough people living on the east side of the street that it's really going to affect. I think it's one person. So, just thought I'd throw that out.
We can bring that back as an ordinance change and just rescind that portion of the no parking ordinance.
why not?
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you and your staff's work. That moves to council comments or any questions council members have before we proceed with other agenda items. Got them all answered before I got it. Okay. Move on to agenda item number 3, presentation by Jake Dugar of McGuire Iron, reference to water tower and reservoir maintenance contract. Welcome.
Well, thank you. My name is Jamie. Jake couldn't make it tonight, so he said, put me in as a stand-in. I just think I'm the better looking one. But what, I think you guys should have something in your packets, potentially about the maintenance on the water towers. You have 2 of them. One of them is in fantastic condition. And we proposed a plan that will allow us to do regular maintenance on it and keep it that way. As you know, you have an elevated water tower, that maintenance hasn't been done on a regular basis, and it's in rough shape. But the good news is I can say, we can keep that tower, we put together a program where we can sandblast, paint it, refurbish it, bring it back to new, put any color you want on it. We've even discussed Green Bay Packer logo.
No.
No.
I am
No.
voting for the Kansas City Chiefs, being from Kansas City, and Mike didn't like that either.
The mayor's picture didn't even, that didn't come up?
We were afraid people would turn around as they saw that. So I just,
Big wrap would be really
It's a change from the school logo to go over it so it faces the football field and things like that. And the thing about a steel water tower that you have is a properly maintained steel structure can last indefinitely. But the key words is it's got to be maintained. So our proposal is to come in there, refurbish it, take off all the old paint, fix it, clean it, get rid of any bad things on there. We first want to make it compliant. There's a few little issues we want to do to get it state compliant. And then we were going to refurbish the whole thing in 2022. We spread the cost out to try to make it fit into the budget. It's a maintenance item, so it's not considered construction in the state of Iowa. So we've tried to do everything we can to make it a feasible item for you guys, to make sure that it keeps its longevity when we spread that out. I'm keeping it kind of simple and keeping it kind of easy. I can get into the weeds about all the different coatings that we use because I'm a paint nerd by nature, but I don't think you guys care, right? You want to know that the tank will last, and it'll last indefinitely as long as I'm maintaining it.
Part of that maintenance plan is, you know, after year 10, 11, 12, when it needs to be repainted again, you've already paid that maintenance plan and it gets painted. It's already figured in. So for both plans, after year 10, 11, 12, when it needs to be repainted, you've already paid that in your maintenance agreement and they just come and do it. It's easier for them to stand by a product that they painted, they inspect it every year. So if there's something that needs to be addressed, of course, they're going to bring it up and take care of it because they're going to have to take care of it eventually if they let things go.
Here's the thing too, and traditionally, in the traditional model that you would go out and receive numbers in, and then you get a 1-year warranty. You let me take care of the tower with that fee. If there was a paint failure in year 2, year 3, year 7, I would have to come back and fix it at my cost. So the city is 100% protected against any type of failure. And so by doing that, you would have your one annual set fee, and then you know that it's taken care of. So now you extend the life of that and push the responsibility onto you. McGuire Iron's been a tank manufacturer and maintenance company for over 100 years. We're based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We have our own corporate crews. We also send out inspectors to check our jobs, to document the work that our crews are doing, because it's my responsibility to take care of it. I had a council member say, well, isn't that kind of like the fox watching the hen house? I'm like, yeah, it is, but they're my eggs, because if it fails prematurely and I'm not managing my own work, then it comes out of my pocket. So it's in my best interest at that point, because your fees won't change. And, you know, if somebody were to go and put graffiti all over the tank, your fees don't change. I have to come and fix that at my cost. Or if there's a failure. Or if the state decides that now you need a second vent on the roof. So those are all the ways that by putting it under a program, we can protect you for both of those things.
I'll just throw out a question. Both tanks still needed?
Well,
Just throw it out.
the ground storage tank is in fantastic condition. It's a very, very large tank. And for that, when it does come time to refurbish it, it costs a tremendous amount of money. So by putting it on the program and allowing me to maintain it and keep up with it, and putting it that way, then you have the ability to now budget all of that going forward. I'm taking the risk and responsibility of it, but then at the end of it, you don't have a $750,000 paycheck when it comes to repay it. You've already started building and working it. And the other thing is, we do annual inspections. We're going to keep you state compliant by doing inspections, and we'll do washouts on them on a regular basis to maintain water quality. And so we take on that responsibility as part of those fees. But that's the number one reason why. And I always equate it to changing the oil in your vehicle. You have two choices. Get your oil changed on a regular basis, or you wait for the engine to blow up and put in a new engine. And putting the program on, putting your tanks under maintenance programs allow us to maintain them so they will last indefinitely, and we're not waiting for that engine to blow up.
And I think that part of that question was, we had talked before, do we need two tanks? And so the benefit of two, if we take down,
And speak loud enough so.
we take down yearly to,
Come on, Travis.
That might help. So the public knows too.
so yearly when they do an inspection every other year, they do a washout, so it gets sanitized and clean. If you take that down for even 2 or 3 days, and that's the only tank you have, you're running off wells. And if the power goes out, you can't pump water, your system goes dry, then you have to go sanitize your whole system, you have to do a boil order. There's just a lot of reasons why two makes sense. And we had maybe talked about a separate ground reservoir, but talking with McGuire Iron, that if we can maintain the one we have, it's way more cost effective, that elevated tank, and maintain it, than it would be to do that other option. And we've looked at all the different options. I mean, towns that have two towers, it's great. I mean, there are many options.
Redundancy. As an operator, redundancy is so much easier.
What was the cost of a small other tank? I thought you said that was just a few $100,000 or something.
We were looking at, we were originally told about 300,000, but we've since found out it's probably closer to 500,000 for a small ground tank. The tank that we were quoted at the 300,000 had seams, and from what we've learned since then is the ones that have seams and things like that don't last near as long. They tend to leak, they tend to have more issues.
I was just looking at 50,000 a year is
Right.
pretty pricey for that tower that.
Well, you'll see it drops down to that 10, and then it would be 10 going out.
Going out.
Part of the reason for
Is
that,
that for both towers or just one?
Well, the one tower.
The one.
First tower, the elevated storage tank, we're going to build and contain it, we're going to blast it. Like I said, we took all of those costs and we spread them out over 5 years. And then after that, then the fee does drop. So what you're seeing is a few years of maintenance fees that we're also building for the future. And we've also taken that original renovation cost to make it like new and spread it out, to make it manageable. Because $300,000 plus paint job is not necessarily the easiest on a city budget. So that's why we'll do all the work up front.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, we do
That's a
all,
lot of money.
Yeah.
no, we do all the work up front, and then we just spread that cost out for you. And that way you have the ability to then budget that, and then the number drops. And then even in our agreement, we limit, there's an annual inflation rate that we have to maintain because things don't always stay the same. But we've even capped it to where it cannot exceed a 5%. So under the program, you would never, ever sit back in year 4 and go, well, this year's rates go up 12%. We've capped it at that. It's a budgetable, manageable amount that you would actually get a letter at the start of your fiscal year to put into your budget cycles. That way you know exactly what the tank maintenance is going to be year in and year out.
So the 7 years are all that 48,000, but that 8th year,
That's the first year that what we call the maintenance fee.
but that could go up 5%.
It will go up a maximum of 5%. And in my years of doing this, over 25 years, I have never seen it be 0, and I've never seen it be 5%. It's usually between a 3 to 4, so around 3.5% on average is the annual inflation rate. This year with COVID, I've seen a huge increase in our steel costs. Up 33% on our steel is what we're starting to see. And our paint material suppliers are going up significantly. And I'm capped at what I can raise it. But cities like Lamar, they're on our maintenance program as well, and they like that because they know how to budget all of that finances for them. Do you guys like the idea of having a maintenance program? Just the short little brief thing I talked to you about, knowing that I'll take responsibility.
I think getting there is nice.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it should be noted, we did have a maintenance program up until 2013, and then it was canceled for, not sure the reason, but it was canceled. But it was a maintenance contract with McGuire Iron to maintain those.
And the next question.
Should have kept it, so it wouldn't have the big frost.
Yes.
2018 when they.
2013, and we think it got canceled. But those, you're right, Tim, those 48,000 years, if that tall tower wasn't in such disrepair, it wouldn't be that, it would just be the regular maintenance contract if we could wait 10 years, but.
Well, so I was wondering why it was so much more than 25 for the other one. I'm going, well, that's 10 times bigger.
Right.
Yeah, it's because we have so much work to do on it.
And that was gonna, you're gonna have to put a curtain up around the whole thing when they sandblast, and that's an extra 100,000.
Yeah. Because
Keep the neighbors happy.
keep the neighbors happy,
And it's old paint. so-
keep the paint in, keep the dust in, keep all of that in.
I got my truck painted one time on construction. Downwind. Nice white glaze on it.
We don't like to talk about things like that.
Oh, one other thing, Al mentioned that when the state inspectors come around, they love to see these maintenance programs because they know you're taking care of your water quality, these towers.
Are you Gatsby 34 compliant? Do you use Gatsby 34 for your county here? This maintenance program is a Gatsby 34 compliant program, which means that it will allow the tanks to retain nearly 100% of their value. So once they're under the program, instead of depreciating, they actually maintain or appreciate costs. You didn't spend $1.4 million for that water tank now, but that's what it would cost to replace it. So it would actually retain a higher value, so the city asset stays up in place with this program. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, we're a Gatsby 34 compliant program. We fill out your Gatsby 34 paperwork every year, and we send it to you, and that way you have it for your records.
Other questions from council members and/or staff members? Obviously, you've been visiting already in the last
So the
time.
elevated tank is structurally sound still, even
Very
though.
much so, yes. That's the great thing about a steel tank. Take care of it, it will last forever. We're at that point where we can do it. And if there is a little piece of steel that gets a little thin, I can fix it. That's the problem with the bolted tanks. They're, first of all, they're supposed to hold water. There's 10,000 holes in them already. But because they're glass lines, you can't necessarily weld to them and things like that. So there's some issues associated with that. With this one, I can weld, patch, paint, and fix. And it's in good condition right now. It's in solid condition.
Before they gave us these maintenance
They checked them.
quotes, they climbed them, inspected them, did 100% check out.
So would any council like to see the tank before we climb up and,
How often do you repaint them?
Well, we usually try to paint them inside every 10 to life expectancy. So our costs are based on making sure that we maintain it, back to my oil scenario.
Do we know when the last time it was done?
They did the inside,
That wasn't that long ago. 16? The outside, it's been a long time. And I don't know when the last time it was ever totally brought down to the metal with sandblasting.
Well, that's one of the other things too, is there are contractors who will cut corners by just sweeping it, roughing it up, and putting a fresh coat of paint on. We will actually, on the interior, always strip it back down to bare metal and start fresh again. That way we're not, cutting corners in the program. So we see that's what we work.
So a Falcon isn't any extra? Big red Falcon up there or something?
Well, Corey said the school would pay for that part.
All right.
Along with the turkey tail.
I like the idea of maintaining both of them and being able to have that backup and to have that available. And it's a good opportunity for us right now to get a fresh look for Hawarden, so.
The only thing I want to check is if we agree to go ahead is whether the tall tower falls under the maintenance part where it doesn't have to be bid out because the project is about $250,000 to paint it and that's what they're spreading out, or if it's a maintenance thing that doesn't have to be bid out. There's just a little bit of a difference opinion that came up this afternoon, and I just want to make sure we're correct in going ahead with it. You guys can approve both maintenance contracts, but before we sign the one on the tall tower, I want to make sure that we're legal in doing that.
Mike, I can actually tell you, if you can sign it, then if they approve it, then you can actually, if there is a problem, you can always just cancel it. There's no cost in doing that as well, but if everything goes through, then you can say, yeah, this is part of it, and it would work out. And then you have that option.
Have we budgeted for any kind of maintenance on this?
We did put the contract in the water budget this year because we knew we were going to get to this point. So they gave us in the July 1st budget.
that's why we pushed the painting off to 22. We do maintenance in 21, and then we can raise that budget a little bit to account for that next year.
So do we need a resolution, or is it just a voice vote?
Just a voice vote.
There's been a motion by Tim to accept the water tower and reservoir maintenance contract with McGuire Iron, Inc. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jen. Questions or clarifications? With the motion and a second, all in favor of the contract, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate your time here. Thank you. Also, thanks for the staff for all their background work in this, in getting us information. Move on to discussion on renewing the garbage contract and adding toters.
Well, as you know, Brad from Warren City Sanitation was here at the last meeting, I believe, or meeting before, and was talking about the idea of adding toters. He had called me last week, wanted to know if council had a chance to talk about that. He's in his second year of his contract. He has to give notice if he wants to renew that for a third year, which he's contemplating. I think he wants to renew it for the third year. But if we add the toters, then he would like us to look into a new contract, a new 5-year contract, so he can recoup some of his money. He would keep the pricing the same for the first 3 years of that 5-year contract, except for the $2 for toters. He would supply each household 2 toters at $1 a piece per month, which would go on their bill, which would be part of the contract. We hadn't talked about it as a council, so I guess I'd kind of like to know what you guys are thinking. Is this the right year to do this? Do we ride out the third year and then look at issuing a new 5-year? Is it now the time to introduce the toters? What do we do with the people that already have the toters? I guess on a staff and billing side, he had suggested, well, if you already have one and want to keep it, you know, we bill you for one, not two. That's going to be a nightmare for downstairs. So, in my opinion, if we do implement it, starting, you know, whenever, we just blanket implement it with two toters.
What size are they gonna be?
That's my question, yeah.
I thought he said the 65
For
gallon.
both, or the recycling?
One
has a
for
bigger
the
one?
recycle-
He did talk about we could get a bigger recycling one if we wanted to, which would then encourage recycling.
Yeah, because that's really handy for, you know, I got the bigger one for mine, and
Mhm.
cardboard really
It-
fits,
it-
but, I
to
mean, you
have
gotta
bigger.
still knock it down a lot, but it's,
And I think he's open to that too, you know, to what sizes.
but I'm thinking most people, anybody with a family probably needs the bigger one, or
Yeah.
I could get by with one
For sure, with
Right.
every
recycling.
4 weeks with that big thing I got.
I know a lot of towns that do the toters, like Sioux Falls where my daughter lives. They give you a small one for garbage and a large one for recycling, which then encourages you to recycle.
And that would,
Because everything over that toter being filled, you gotta buy a tag for $1 and have it on there or they don't pick it up.
I think ever since they've come into town, we've been really pleased with their service and everything that they've done. I don't see a,
Plus
And I
3
do like
years
the
at the
toters.
same price, that's
yeah,
a good thing, so. The 5-year
and then,
toters. You want to leave it out for another meeting, just to have community?
Yeah, I mean, if
fine.
there's, we certainly can. We don't have to jump on it tonight. But it, you know, it's something to consider. Of course, it's another $2 a month onto their garbage bill for the toters, but they supply you a nice heavy garbage can. If you already have one, I'm not sure what you want to do with it, but just for a billing side of it though, it would be a nightmare for us to keep track of who owns what and then trying to bill you $1 and you $2 and so.
I think they've actually, ones I've got, I mean, that was, 10 years ago about when they started pushing it.
Yeah, that's
Everybody
what
that wanted one pretty much got one then, so I think they paid for themselves. You know, Jim was saying that you can store your firewood and stuff in there for little lawn
just to
sticks and stuff.
hopefully find another use for them.
Not like you gotta throw them away or send them back to the landfill.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any penalty for having more recycling
No,
than you're not.
recycling.
You know, take more if you add more.
Does it cost less for us when they go
Right.
into the,
I'm in favor. of it.
I am too.
If you wanna wait till next meeting just to have all 5 of us and then
I think we should.
see if the people in town complain or anything. Maybe put it in the paper, ask, you know, for comments or something, or I don't know. Doesn't matter, $2.
And I believe it wouldn't start till June. The contract, the second year goes through May, I believe.
So we'll bring this up for action next meeting,
We'll put it back on for the next.
24th?
meeting For action, yeah.
And it sounds like we're pretty, at this point, maybe pretty affirmative with a 5-year contract and starting toters. And as we mentioned to him when he visited, we thanked them for their good work here. It's been we were really
Yeah, they kind of stepped up when we were in need.
plus to have them get here for that, so. Good, thank you for your discussion with that. Move into agenda item number 5, alley between Avenue F and E from 9th Street to 10th Street.
Put a memo in your packet, I've been talking with People's Bank. They're gonna put their bank on the come and go corner. It's gonna be about a 5,500 square foot facility. Part of it will be hooked onto the alley, so it'll be an exit and entrance out of there, as well as their drive-through will be on that side. They've asked if we would look at concreting that alley so that their customers coming in and out would have a smooth, permanent surface to drive on. And then we looked at that between that and they would forego the tax abatement or the tax abatement on that building. Did some figuring and we checked with our engineers. It's going to cost us about $63,000 to concrete that alley, and they would make it kind of bowl shaped, so the middle would drop down about 2 inches, and then have it run to either 9th Street or to 10th Street, and then run down the gutters into the storm sewers. We wouldn't need to put in any underground storm sewers in that. There is one garage that's leaning heavily, and it's about 2 foot onto the alley. We have talked to that person about the possibility of allowing us to take that garage down. He would need some kind of shed and maybe replace that with a garden shed type thing for him. We're looking at about a total cost of $65,000 to do that. If we didn't want to do that and they are entitled to the tax abatement on that, and just looking at similar priced properties, even they're building it's going to be about a $2 million investment. Even if it was assessed at half of that, at $1 million, we would be looking at the tax abatement. It would cost approximately $90,000 to $132,000 as far as tax dollars we would lose by them taking the abatement. So obviously the better route for us would be to concrete that alley in lieu of a tax abatement.
So move.
So I'd have to come back with an actual development agreement. We're doing a lot of discussing tonight. So, but wanted to get council's feelings on that. You know, they want to come in and make a $2 million investment, and really, besides this, have asked for nothing.
For longevity, they want concrete versus pavement?
Yeah, versus a blacktop or
They
something
didn't
like
just
that.
say any hard surface.
No.
I didn't figure, but.
And, you know, obviously concrete's gonna be around for the long term and it's gonna look nicer and so. So we'll go ahead and move along with that then, if council's okay with that.
Sounds good.
I have no opinion on that one.
You will.
Somebody has an opinion.
Just kidding, thank you. Once we get there, you can do what you need to do. Thanks, and we thank them for their investment in our community. Resolution 2021-12, proposing to dispose of real estate property and publishing a notice of public hearing, 1005 Central Avenue. This is agenda item number 6.
Correct, we've done this once before, just due to a couple of circumstances, it did not get published in time for the public hearing, so we have to start the whole thing over again. As we know, the Hugestrats bought Gary Wilkinson's building on the corner there to move Big Sue Embroidery to there. We own the lot next to it. It's not a big lot. It's 50 by 130 or something like that. And they have expressed an interest to purchase that. There again, they expressed an interest to purchase that for $1,000, and they're going to build on it, and they will forego the commercial tax abatement on any building they do, which will come out, once again, we will come out of that a little better than if they took the tax abatement.
Was there an easement there too or something?
Yes, we do want to create a utility easement that they've agreed to. We have a transformer sitting on that, and we need so many feet around it that they can't build up to, and they've agreed to that also.
So move.
There's been a motion by Tim, seconded by John. This is for Resolution 2021-12, proposing to dispose of the property and publishing a notice of public hearing for 1005 Central Avenue. Any questions about the motion? Roll call vote then, please, for Resolution 2021-12.
Lucky?
Aye.
Delmecker?
Aye.
Scherf?
Aye.
Bergsman?
Aye.
On a 4-0 roll call vote, Resolution 2021-12 passes. And again, we thank the Hugestrats for their investment in our community and their understanding in moving from that corner to that corner. Hawarden City Council is now going to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 388.9 to discuss marketing and pricing strategies, proprietary information where the competitive position would be harmed by public disclosures not required of competitors, and no public purpose is served by disclosure. Is there a motion to go into closed session? Moved by Rob. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jen. Need a roll call vote to go into closed session?
Yes.
Please.
Kurth? Bucky?
Aye.
Feldhacker?
Aye.
Birdsma?
Aye.
On a 4-0 roll call vote, Hawarden City Council will be going into closed session. For the public, just note this will be taped privately. We will be coming back into open session shortly. So Hawarden City Council is now in closed session.